Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Difficult Child, Expanded and Revised Edition, by Stanley Turecki and Leslie Tonner, narrated by Nicholson. Do you have a difficult child? This questionnaire can be found in the print and e-book editions of this book. Family questions. Answer yes or no. 1. Do you find your child hard to raise? Answer yes or no. 2. Do you find the child's behavior hard to understand? Answer yes or no. 3. Are you often battling the child? Answer yes or no. 4. Do you feel inadequate or guilty as a parent? Answer yes or no. 5. Is your marriage or family life being affected by the child? Answer yes or no. Child questions. The headings below identify possibly difficult areas of your child's temperament, his or her innate makeup. Rate your child in an overall way on each item, using this scale. 0 equals no problem, never present or just a little. 1 equals moderate problem, sometimes present. 2 equals definite problem, often present. 3 equals extreme problem, nearly always or always. High activity level. Restless, squirmy, fidgety, always into things. Hyper, makes you tired. Ran before he walked. Easily overstimulated. Trouble sitting still or playing quietly. Motor mouth. Hates to be confined. Easily gets wild or revved up. Impulsivity. Acts without thinking. Quick, hot temper. Easily frustrated. Impatient. Excitable. Interrupts. Calls out. Doesn't await turn. Grabs or pushes. Can lose control and become aggressive. Can suddenly take off. Distractibility. Has problems focusing and paying attention, especially if not really interested. Trouble following instructions. Doesn't listen. Tunes you out. Daydreams. Disorganized. Forgetful. High intensity. Loud voice. Forceful. Overwhelming. Strong emotions, whether miserable, angry, or happy. Irregularity. Unpredictable body rhythms. Can't tell when he'll be hungry or tired. Resulting in conflicts over meals and bedtime. Wakes up at night. Erratic toilet habits. Negative persistence. Very strong-willed. Stubborn. Goes on and on nagging, whining, or negotiating if wants something. Relentless. Won't give up. Wears you down. Gets locked in. May have long tantrums. Low sensory threshold. Physically, not emotionally sensitive. Highly aware of color, light, appearance, texture, sound, smell, taste, or temperature. Not necessarily all of these. Creative, but with strong and sometimes unusual preferences that can be embarrassing. Bothered by bright lights and loud noises. Particular. Picky. Clothes have to feel or look right. Doesn't like the way many foods look, smell, or taste. Feels too cold or too hot when no one else does. Initial withdrawal. Shy and reserved with new adults and or children, doesn't like new situations and unfamiliar settings, holds back or protests by crying, clinging, or tantruming if forced to go forward. Poor adaptability. Has trouble with transition and change of activity or routine. Inflexible. Notices minor details. Gets used to things and won't give them up. Can want the same clothes or foods over and over. Creature of habit. Even after initial response, takes a long time to adapt. Negative mood. Serious. Doesn't show pleasure openly. Not a sunny disposition. What your rating means. Family, yes, 0 to 1. Child, plus 4 to 7 points. Conclusion equals some difficult features. Family, yes, 2 to 3. Child, plus 8 to 14 points, equals difficult child. Family, yes, 4 to 5. Child, plus 15 or more points, equals very difficult child. A personal introduction. I am a child and family psychiatrist, and the parent of an ex-difficult child. Prior to my daughter's birth, I had completed my training in adult and child psychiatry, was affiliated with a good hospital, and had entered private practice. Like so many young psychiatrists, I was still searching for a truly personal style. Our daughter arrived on a cold winter morning in 1974. Within a day, the head nurse in the newborn nursery remarked, "That one is going to be trouble." A restless, irritable baby, totally unpredictable in her feeding, she seemed to be always screaming. Neither her mother nor a baby nurse could soothe her. Sleepless nights were the rule in our household, and by the time our daughter was 6 months old, her mother and I were both irritable and tense. By the age of 2, with continuing efforts, she had settled into somewhat more predictable routines. Still, when she was upset, a very long, loud tantrum usually followed. Often it was hard to understand why she had such extreme reactions. Dressing, bedtime, going for a walk, virtually any new experience could cause problems. My training and experience as a child psychiatrist helped somewhat, but all too often I found myself reacting as a bewildered parent. We were finding it hard to discipline her, but we were also gradually learning to accept at least some of her behavior. About this time, in my efforts to understand my child and her puzzling reactions, I reread Temperament and Behavior Disorders in Children, a book by Drs. Stella Chess and Alexander Thomas, about their New York longitudinal study of temperament. Suddenly there it was, the erratic eating and sleeping, the unhappiness, the negative reactions to anything new, the problems with transition and change, the loudness, all were there. I studied the book carefully, looking for ideas. The next 3 years prior to elementary school were better, but not consistently so. We were still sometimes puzzled, but we could now understand more of the behavior as an expression of our daughter's temperament. We learned to create routines whenever possible, and she thrived on these. We tried to avoid unfamiliar situations, and when we couldn't, we prepared her carefully. Strengths were emerging. She could be extremely funny. She had a wonderful imagination. She loved to dress up and play games with her dolls. She was going to a carefully selected nursery school with warm, accepting teachers who obviously liked her. Problem areas remained. Occasional tantrums in the park and other public places still caused embarrassment. Good days at school were followed by struggles at home. With many gains, we would notice a slip back in another area. She could be charming and delightful in the afternoon, but cranky and fearful the same evening, excited about going to a birthday party, and then refuse to leave her mother's side when they arrived. But she was such an interesting child that life was never dull with her. Professionally, my whole focus was shifting. No longer did I view problem behavior in young children as only a reaction to their parents or as a developmental phase. I was now asking more and more questions about the child's temperament. What is this child really like? What kind of person is she? Is she hard to raise? How does she affect her family? I started to see clearly that many parent-child problems were not caused by the parents alone. Of course, the parents' personalities were important and impacted on their children, but this was a two-way street, with traffic flowing in both directions, and in many cases the child's contribution deserved more attention. More and more, my experience as a parent, together with my increasing sophistication about temperament-related issues, was allowing me to work with the families of difficult children in a much more meaningful way. By 1984, a plan began to crystallize, a program for the families of difficult children. The Difficult Child Program was originally started at Beth Israel Hospital. Dr. Carol Sands and I worked with the parents and children, and my wife Lucille enthusiastically led the support groups. The Beth Israel program is now closed. In 1985, I founded the Difficult Child Center, based in my private practice in Manhattan, recruiting another professional, Stephen Friedfeld. He has made a significant contribution, and Ruth Johnson, my office manager, has provided a most welcoming atmosphere for the families who come to the Difficult Child Center. My strong desire to help more parents with hard-to-raise children originally led me to write The Difficult Child in 1985. Leslie Tonner, a writer and herself a mother, participated in writing the original manuscript. In 1989, I revised the book, and have done so again now, to take into account the latest information on diagnosis and medication use in children, and to share with you my own views on these matters. For nearly 15 years, my editor at Bantam Books, Tony Burbank, has been essential to all revisions of The Difficult Child, and to the writing of my second book, Normal Children Have Problems Too. She is not only brilliant, but also a close personal friend. In 1992, I was remarried, and guess what? My wife Susie brought with her a temperamentally difficult daughter. More on-the-job training followed, as well as the humbling experience of seeing how I could be reduced to a state of impotence and frustration. In spite of all my experience, and even though Susie had been a wonderful mother to Francesca in her early years. Since The Difficult Child was first published, I have continued to learn from the parents of difficult children. I have received thousands of letters and continue to interact with parents and children in my practice. I very much enjoy the questions and answers that follow my lectures to parents and professionals. All this feedback has enabled me to refine my thinking and develop new techniques. Personally, in my dual role of parent and professional, the writing and now the revising of The Difficult Child has been immensely rewarding. I hope that it adds to our clinical body of knowledge and proves helpful to many professionals who come into contact with difficult children. In the final analysis, however, I have written this book for you, the parents. It is my most sincere hope that it will prove helpful to you, so that you in turn can help your difficult child realize her or his full individual potential. May you soon look to your child's future with optimism, anticipation, and confidence. Stanley Turecki, M.D., November 1999. Part 1. Some children are born difficult. 1. Do you know this child? Matthew has trouble going to sleep at night and staying asleep. Trying to get him to go to bed in his own room can provoke a pitched battle, with his exhausted mother often falling asleep on the floor next to his bed. Matthew has been a poor sleeper since infancy, and even though he has a nightlight and a collection of stuffed animals, he often ends up coming into his parents' bed several times during the night. If it's very late, his mother lets him climb in. Her husband always argues with her about the wisdom of this, but they cannot break the child's habit. Matthew also has problems with eating. His mother continually pushes good, nutritious food at him, which he always rejects, saying he doesn't like it. He can be funny and appealing, but most of the time he is a serious, cranky child. He doesn't like to spend time alone. He interrupts his mother when she's trying to talk on the phone, and doesn't let his parents hold a private conversation. When not battling Matthew, his mom feels guilty and sorry for him. She knows she should be firmer, but if she or his father try to make him stay in his bed, or try to get him to sit at the table and eat properly, poor little 3-year-old Matthew throws loud, long tantrums. They'll do anything to keep him from doing that, even give up their privacy in bed. But it's all getting to be a bit much for this family. They feel controlled by their child, and disagree on how best to deal with him. The marriage is showing strain. The older brother John is complaining that he never gets any attention, and that Matthew bosses him around. "I can't believe this is my kid," Brian's mother often says. She is precise and orderly. Her 5-year-old has been on the go since he could crawl. The house is never neat, in spite of her best efforts. Although Brian can pay attention to TV or puzzles, he is usually moving from one thing to another. Whether laughing or crying, he is always very loud. He gets revved up easily, especially in a noisy room filled with people, or in brightly lit stores and markets. In the playground he gets overexcited, and can push or hit other children. His mother is very embarrassed by such behavior, but finds it hard to be firm, because she's not sure of herself, and Brian just doesn't listen. He doesn't need much sleep, and it's hard to put him to bed at night, leaving little time for the parents to be alone. In kindergarten, the teachers think of Brian as a troublemaker, and have alluded to testing for ADD, because he is always on the go and doesn't pay attention. Brian's pediatrician, who sees the child in his busy, crowded office, says Brian has ADHD, doesn't need testing, but should go on Ritalin. His parents, and especially his mother, are confused and worried. She has recently returned to work, and wonders whether this has anything to do with Brian's problems. When the school or the babysitter call with the incident of the day, her stomach tightens into a knot. Brian has been saying, "I'm bad," and his generally sunny disposition is being replaced by an angry, surly attitude. Isabel is an adorable 4-year-old, with blonde curls, green eyes, and a peaches and cream complexion. She has a circle of friends, and does well in school. She seems to be a model child. But if you talk to her mother, you get a different story. "I don't know what's the matter with her," she says. "She's so adorable. But when she decides she doesn't want to wear something, or eat something, or do something, I can't make her change her mind. She is the most stubborn and wilful child alive then, and if I try to insist, she will just go on like a broken record. She is absolutely relentless when she wants something. We keep on getting into these power struggles. I try to be nice and understanding, but she doesn't respect me. She calls me names, and then I just lose it. What sets Isabel off? She won't wear anything that isn't pale purple or pink, her mother says with exasperation. She won't wear turtlenecks, or bib overalls, or socks. And why does Isabel reject these items? Because, her mother will tell you, they don't feel right. And as a result, Isabel has in her closet only a select few items to dress in. No socks, and only tights, loose shirts and pants with drawstring waists, no elastic. She wants to wear funny combinations, like polka-dot pink pants with a purple shirt. And Isabel's mom, well-groomed and fashion-conscious, has been stuck with hundreds of dollars of unworn clothing. An administrator in a large company, the mother supervises 50 employees. Why, then, she asks herself, can't she get her 4-year-old to listen to her? Isabel also refuses to eat many foods, sticking to the few she likes, and her parents can't take her out to eat unless the restaurant serves fried chicken or peanut butter and jelly. Efforts to make her dress more normally for school or to eat a proper breakfast result in protracted negotiations and arguments, which degenerate into pitched battles. And as if this weren't enough, Isabel always seems to complain to her mother about the way things look and feel and smell. Her mother has to spend extra time helping Isabel find things to wear, eat, and play with that don't bother her. Often to get out of the house in time to drop the child in school and make it to work on time, the mother ends up dressing Isabel. And the child is now refusing to go to the bathroom alone. Mom has to be there and help wipe her backside. Adorable Isabel is driving her mother crazy. And Isabel is getting touchier and more stubborn with her mother every day. In Rachel's house, Rachel's father privately refers to his daughter as the Queen, because she always gets her way. He doesn't understand why his wife has to give in to the child all the time. She's just doing this to get attention, he believes. In fact, Rachel is a shy, rather rigid and very stubborn child, who also knows how to manipulate. She cries, whines, and clings fiercely to her mother. Her father feels his wife encourages this behavior. Just give her a good whack when she does that, he keeps insisting. But Rachel can do more than just cry and cling. She will at times publicly tantrum, and her mother does not know how to handle that. She stands by helplessly as her child makes a scene. Simple transitions from one activity to another can cause power struggles. For example, leaving the TV to come to the dinner table, putting on her coat to go out, or leaving the playground can result in trouble. In the evening she resists getting into the bath, but once she's in, she won't come out. If she wants something, she can go on and on nagging. She won't take no for an answer. When not battling her mother, she seems clinging and fearful. By mid-afternoon, Rachel's mom is worn out from the fighting, and she alternately gives in or punishes Rachel, depending on how tired she herself is. She feels she is neglecting her 1-year-old. She is a somewhat timid person. She knows she is too involved and is not being effective, but she feels trapped. The doctor pronounced Rachel a terrible 2, but now at 3.5, no improvement is in sight. Rachel's father doesn't understand how a 3-year-old can cause so much trouble, and believes his wife is responsible. Rachel's mother feels angry, inadequate, and victimized. She is privately worried that she's starting to hate her daughter, and feels extremely guilty. If you recognize your child in one of these vignettes, or, after completing the questionnaire, suspect for other reasons that your child is indeed difficult, then you need to know these basic facts. Difficult children are normal. They are not emotionally disturbed, mentally ill, or brain damaged. Well-meaning relatives or other parents may have suggested that something must be wrong with him. You may have worried a lot about this yourself. So let's get a new perspective. Difficult is very different from abnormal. In today's climate, with ever-increasing numbers of children being diagnosed, this is a very important distinction for parents to keep in mind. Difficult children are like this because of their innate makeup. And that makeup is their inborn temperament. They are not like this because of something you, as parents, have done to them. It's not your fault. And it's not the child's fault either. He didn't ask to be born difficult. Difficult children are hard to raise. Of course, you know this already. But if you think of it as a basic fact of existence, it will help you cope better. This is the way your child is. But by understanding him better and learning about his temperament, you will be able to manage him successfully. He will then be a great deal easier to raise. Difficult children are not all the same. The picture differs depending on which areas of temperament come into play. Difficult children also range from the basically easy child with some difficult features to the extreme of the very difficult, perhaps even impossible child. Difficult children make their parents feel angry, inadequate, or guilty. And these parental feelings can lead to one of the biggest problems with difficult children, a loss of parental authority. Parents feel their child no longer listens to them, that she is the one in control. Inconsistency and excessive punishment follow. "Nothing works" is the most common statement parents make about their efforts to discipline the child. Difficult children can create marital strain, family discord, problems with siblings, and end up with emotional problems of their own. Or, difficult children can become positive, enthusiastic, perhaps even especially creative individuals if they are well managed when young. And teaching you how to do this is the goal of this book. The first and most basic issue you should understand about your child is that of temperament, and how your child's individual temperamental traits shape his behavior from a very early age. What is temperament? A child's personality develops from the interaction between nature and nurture. Temperament refers to the traits a child is born with, in other words, the nature part of her personality. It is her natural, inborn style of behavior. It's the how of behavior, not the why. It should not be confused with motivation. The question is not, why does he behave a certain way if he doesn't get a cookie, but rather, when he doesn't get a cookie, how does he express his displeasure? Does he pout? Does he whine and complain? Or does he kick and scream? This style of behavior is innate and is not produced by the environment. The environment and your behavior as a parent can influence temperament and interplay with it, but it is not the cause of temperamental character.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?